Network Morning Coffee, Fridays with Carole. I'm Carole Moore, and this is Mark Cook, my co-host today.
Good morning.
And we are talking about the New Jersey tall ship. Mark's heard the story before, but he might learn something new on this. What we were very fortunate here in New Jersey is we have a culture, had, past tense, in 1928, we had a culture of millionaires here in New Jersey. And people think New Jersey and millionaires, those two things just don't go. However, in 1928, Bivalve, which is a little port off of South Jersey, right off the Morris River, had more millionaires per capita than any other place in the world.
Wow. Now, give me the exact location. Is that because of its proximity to New York, or?
Absolutely not.
Wow.
Nothing
All right.
to do with New York, had to do with a train track.
Ah, yes.
There was a South Jersey rail line that went all the way down to Fortescue, Bivalve, all these little communities that are along the Morris River.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people call it the Morris River, but it's really Maurice.
Okay.
So it depends if you're a local or not. It's the Maurice River.
Right, okay.
It's in Maurice Township.
Right.
Okay. And anyway, this Morris River actually is just off the Delaware Bay. So where our home port is, the New Jersey Tall Ships home port, is right on this Morris River.
Okay.
And it takes you 3 or 4 minutes sailing time, and you're out and you're on the Delaware Bay. And the Delaware Bay is where all these oysters were caught. All along New Jersey. New Jersey's coast was filled with oysters.
Right.
And so in 1928, everybody who was a millionaire built these beautiful Victorian and post-Victorian houses with 20 rooms and 25 rooms. And the housing stock is still there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an income and you want to buy an old house to fix up, there's where you want to go, Bivalve, New Jersey.
Okay, see, I guess what I was thinking is that it had to be further up the coast, but it's not. It's further down the coast.
It's actually, when I drive from Burlington County, I have to drive an hour and a half to get there.
Okay.
So it is on the coast, on the ocean coast, and it is an hour and a half south.
So we're talking closer to Cape May.
Oh yes, yes.
Okay.
You're only about 20 minutes from north of Cape May.
Okay.
If you want to get here. So in 1928, here everybody was eating oysters. Oysters were considered the poor man's food.
Right.
Now I can remember my father-in-law going down to the dock and buying a big feed bag full of oysters. And he would throw them in his basement, on the floor, not in a bucket or anything,
Right.
and pour a bucket of water on top of them, and they would last for a month.
Really?
Yes, remember, an oyster is not something that has to be refrigerated. It lives in water, that tidal water comes up, down,
right.
So it gets a bucket of water now and then, and in your basement it would save. Because in those days your basements were not finished, they were just basements where they had a temperature of maybe 60 degrees, 55 degrees. So anyway, here is this wonderful industry. So the industry is thriving. We literally had shipping out of this little port, Bivalve, New Jersey, 90 railroad cars a day of oysters.
What?
90 railroad cars a day.
That's like thousands of pounds of oysters.
Because oysters were served every single day. Why? Because oysters are very, very nutritious.
Right.
And again, they were poor people's food.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now you order 6 oysters on a half shell at a restaurant and you're paying $7 to $10. But at this time in 1928 era, they were poor people's food.
Well, we have to know that where the story is going, because the result is what we have now.
Exactly.
But I know that they are working on it, so I don't want to give anything away, but the landscape really changed.
Well, it wasn't the landscape that changed, it was the water quality.
Well, I didn't mean landscape like the landscaping. I mean the environment changed.
Oh, the environment.
The whole thing started to change because they were over.
Well,
they were over harvesting the oysters.
They actually were not. They were
Okay.
not over.
I don't know anything, folks. I'm
That's
just
all right.
here.
He's learning, and I'm the old school teacher. So it actually was caused by a blight, a
Okay.
bacteria that got into the oysters.
Okay.
Okay, and killed 2/3 of the oysters along the New Jersey shores.
Right.
And unfortunately, we, the population here in New Jersey, did not realize the importance of the oyster industry.
Right.
And the oyster industry was that one oyster filters, one oyster, little ugly little creature, shellfish,
Mm-hmm.
filters 150 gallons of water a day.
Wow.
Now, we didn't realize this until the blight came and 2/3 of
It
our
took 'em off,
oysters were
right.
gone. And suddenly, guess what we're getting? We're getting red tides. We're getting algae blooms.
Dirty
the
water,
quality.
right.
Yes, and we're saying, well, you know, we didn't have all this problem while we had all the oysters. Duh.
Right.
The oysters were doing the filtering. And
Wow.
we didn't even know it. And so somebody asked me, well, heck, oh heck, if all those oysters are filtering all the heavy metals and the toxins that are floating around in the ocean and in the bay,
Right.
well then we shouldn't eat
We don't
oysters
wanna eat 'em, right.
because it's got to be in them. Well, actually, it's not. When the oyster was created, some miraculous ability to take those heavy metals and put them into the shell. Now, think of shells, okay? You got a clam shell, very symmetrical, very smooth,
Right.
very lovely.
Right.
Okay? You have a mussel shell, very symmetrical,
Right.
very smooth,
Smooth.
very lovely. You have an oyster shell, bumpy, no two look alike.
Right.
Okay, and that's because the heavy metals are taken out of the water and put into an inert form into the shell. So that's where all of the toxins went.
Is that why when they get shucked, there's such that strong connection to the shell? I don't know what it's called. It's almost like a
That's
tendon
the muscle.
or a muscle.
You were close.
Okay, all right.
You were close. Yes, actually with clams and most mollusks, okay, now mollusks is all of your clam shells, your mussels, your oysters. All
That I did know.
He did know the mollusks, okay. And the town that we're talking about here is called bivalve.
Okay.
What does that tell you?
Well,
Bi means
bi
two.
means two, right?
Okay. Bivalve means two valves, two shells.
Right, opening and closing. I'm getting that.
So the two shells would be mussels, clams, oysters, la da 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 da. So that's why the town was called bivalve, because it was where they had the two-shelled organisms.
Oh, look how clever those folks were.
You think about that for a minute, and we're going to take a little break here. This is Radio Vision Network, and this is Morning Coffee. Carole Moore with Mark Cook, and we'll be right back talking about the New Jersey oyster industry and the New Jersey tall ship.
Sub some sizzle. This is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Simply Gents, located in Marlton, New Jersey, takes care of all your grooming needs, including haircuts, straight razor shaves, massages, facial, manicures, pedicures, and waxing. To find more information or book an appointment, visit us online at www.simplygents.com. The secret weapon of a well-groomed man, Simply Gents.
If you haven't been to Speed Raceway, what are you waiting for? You want to live fast? You want to make every second count? Then grab the family. Round up the guys. Speed Raceway is 100,000 square feet of excitement, whether you're a kid or a kid at heart. Speed Raceway is the place for endless fun all summer long. Log on to speedraceway.com or just get here now.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to make a really great sub, this is what we do. It's what we've been doing. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do. So what are you doing? Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Today's show was brought to you by Alicia Kelly of White Horse RV Center in Williamstown, New Jersey. Alicia is your RV expert. Contact Alicia at alicia@whitehorserv.com or give her a call at 856-262-1717, extension 203. When you think of RV, think Alicia Kelly.
Today's show has been sponsored by Farmers Insurance in Voorhees, New Jersey. To protect your assets and the people you love, call Mike Skoranek, your local Farmers Insurance agent, at 856-336-2553.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
And we're back with Radio Vision Network here. Morning Coffee, Fridays with Carole and Mark Cook. And we're talking about New Jersey's oyster industry. And so far we've learned that the oyster industry was attacked by a virus.
Yeah, sorry, I mean, it was huge. The oyster, most people don't realize that a lot of New Jersey's fishing industry was based on the oyster. And the oysters in the 20s, it was huge. New Jersey was known for its oysters.
It absolutely was. We actually had 500 oyster schooners, okay, that were working the Delaware Bay and the shores of New Jersey.
Wow.
500. And believe it or not, the law at that time, in 1928 to about 1940, was that you had to oyster under sail.
Really?
Yes. Now, I, as a science teacher, know the anatomy of an oyster.
Right.
And I could never figure out why they would have you be moving to harvest the oysters.
Right, that seems counterintuitive.
It's not like you have to give him a head start,
Right.
because once an oyster is affixed to a hard surface, which is where they grow, he never moves again.
Right.
Until you rip him off and put him on the boat.
So is it like a barnacle that way?
It is a barnacle.
Okay.
Yes.
It is a barnacle.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. It shall I say, it is like a barnacle in that it's stationary.
Right.
And it grows there. And
Okay.
it's in tidal water. Where a clam, you dig down into the mud and all the muck, okay? And he actually a clam has a foot, a pseudopod, pseudo meaning false, pod meaning foot, pseudopod, he can dig into the sand.
Okay.
Now, an oyster doesn't have that capacity. He just literally floats along as an embryo and attaches to a hard surface, and there he grows.
And then the shell grows around
Right.
it.
So
That's really
there was no
interesting.
idea why the industry required, or the law required, that they be sailing as they oyster. Okay, and it's until the 1960s, I think. No, it was the 40s that they stopped that law.
Okay.
And let them be able to use a diesel engine.
Right.
Okay. But up until then, you had to be sailing, all right? And there were 500 vessels. Now there is one vessel left, one oyster schooner left out of all those 500.
Wow.
And that's the New Jersey Tall Ship, dedicated by Governor Christy Todd Whitman. I was fortunate to be a volunteer in her office and also a crew member, so the two got together.
Right.
And we dedicated her right on the shores of Burlington, New Jersey. Christy Todd Whitman came down. The Meerwald was in for its biannual, twice a year. The Meerwald, the New Jersey Tall Ship, comes to Burlington.
Okay.
And this is where she was dedicated as the New Jersey's official tall ship. And the ship is actually a historic site.
Oh, wow.
Because there's none others left. Now, let me tell you, out of these 500, where are they? Some are on the bottom of the bay, because oystering was basically done in the bay. It was not done in the ocean. It's done in the bay,
Okay.
in the shores around New Jersey, right on up, even into the Delaware River. Some of the southern parts of the Delaware River are actually brackish.
So they grow in like the tributaries?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'm impressed. Very good, Mark. You get an A on that.
I'm going to go home now.
Yes.
I'm not going to get any better than that, folks. That was it. That was the top.
So anyway, the industry petered out because of this virus, and we were able to figure out that it was doing the cleaning of the water, and that's why we were having red tides when the oysters were depleted. And we went to Japan and got a virus-free oyster strain, and we infiltrated our oysters here, and now we have a thriving industry.
Wow, that's how we brought it back.
That's how we
huh?
brought it back, yes.
That's really
We
interesting.
had to go to the Pacific and go to a totally other ocean, in other words, to find a oyster that would not be susceptible to this same virus.
And it was because they were untouched, or they were living in a more pure environment?
Not pure, just different.
Just different.
Just
okay.
different.
Okay.
It did
So they
not
weren't
have-
they didn't have the exposure.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So of these 500 ships, one is left, the New Jersey tall ship, and the other 499, you might see a hull of one of them that has been cut down, chopped up, and rebuilt as a something or other.
Right.
But as far as actually a sailing vessel, New Jersey tall ship is the last one. And that's interesting too, because in 1928, the heyday of the oyster industry, a gentleman by the name of A.J. Meerwald, okay?
Sounds familiar.
Yes, he had this wonderful 110-foot oystering schooner built. Now, how do you know it's an oystering schooner? It has a very, very wide deck, because the oysters were loaded on top of the deck. The only thing that went underneath were the poor 7 men who had to live on board,
Right.
okay, in very stark conditions, 1928 conditions,
Yeah.
which we still do now when we reenact it. We still sleep on the same bunks they've been sleeping on since 1928, and
Wow.
it ain't comfy. I've
Yeah,
been there.
I
I've
can
done
imagine.
that.
Yeah. Wow.
So the Meerwald family had this ship built, and it was wonderful, along with these other 499 vessels. My image is, imagine all these 500 boats in the Delaware Bay, right off the shore of New Jersey. Why didn't they bump into each other?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how could they move?
And they're sailing.
Yeah, how could
And
they
if you
move
get the
around?
wrong wind, that pumps you into somebody else. You know. But
There were a lot of arguments on the water, I'm
No,
sure.
actually, it was wonderful. Each one of them has an auxiliary diesel engine
Okay.
that was for emergency, or when there was a doldrum, when they had no wind or
Right.
whatever. But they weren't allowed to oyster while they were under the
Okay,
motor.
so like if somebody got too close, they were like,
They
"No,
could
turn
use-
on the engine.
yeah,
Let's get
right,
away from this
yeah,
guy." All
yeah.
right,
They,
that's interesting.
They had a little control that way, which we still use. We still have our same engine on board. Anyway, so then World War II happened, and all the ships, of course, you probably read this in books everywhere, the ships were commandeered under the War Powers Act.
Right.
And the Meerwald, the New Jersey tall ship, was also commandeered. And its mast was cut off, and a wheelhouse was added, okay? Now, what's a wheelhouse? A wheelhouse is just a little building, maybe 10 by 10, put on top of the deck, right over the steering wheel. That's why it's called the wheelhouse.
Oh my gosh! I can't believe it! I use that saying all the time, and I never knew what it meant.
Now you know what it means.
That's right in my wheelhouse.
That's right in your
I
wheelhouse.
love that.
That is right
That's
in your
awesome. All right,
wheelhouse.
so now
Yeah.
when I say that it's right in my wheelhouse, I'm going to tell them the story too.
That's exactly right.
That's awesome.
Yes. And we'll be right back. You keep ahead.
I
keep
knew this
thinking
was a
about
good
it.
idea. I knew it.
This is Radio Vision Network Morning Coffee with Carole and Mark, and we'll be right back. Just hold on after this commercial. Tell your friends they're going to learn something new today. Whether you're here.
Today's show is sponsored by Hargrove Demolition, your demolition experts. Hargrove is a family-owned and operated business right here in the southern New Jersey area, bringing you 45 years of demolition expertise. Hargrove has all your demolition needs, from emergency demolition service to demolition equipment rental. Hargrove is one of the state-approved recycling facilities right here in the southern New Jersey area. No job is too big or too small for Hargrove Demolition. Contact them today at one of their 3 locations.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
haven't been to Speed Raceway, what are you waiting for? You want to live fast? You want to make every second count? Then grab the family. Round up the guys. Speed Raceway is 100,000 square feet of excitement, whether you're a kid or a kid at heart. Speed Raceway is the place for endless fun all summer long. Log on to speedraceway.com or just get here now.
When we make Beyond Natural dry dog and cat foods, we start with real meat as the first ingredient. We leave out corn, wheat, and soy. And we own where our dry food is made. 100%. Can other brands say all that? For nutrition you can trust and your pet will enjoy. Does your food go beyond? Learn more at purinabeyond.com.
Extra Innings is the nation's premier indoor baseball and softball training center, featuring indoor batting cages, 7 multi-use tunnels, and training rooms. Extra Innings can provide professional instruction, private and group lessons, and the best year-round clinics. Along with a nationally recognized pro shop that features the latest and widest selection of equipment and apparel, our experienced staff can provide you with the right instruction and help you find the best equipment for your ability and budget. Extra Innings, where the game never ends.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
And welcome back to Radio Vision Network here. This is Morning Coffee, and we're here with Mark Cook and Carole Moore, and we're talking New Jersey oysters here. The bivalve packing plant is still there and viable in Bivalve, New Jersey. And Mark has learned a lot, and he has a lot of knowledge from science. He had his ears open in science class. So.
You know, occasionally.
That's
Listen, D was for diploma. I'm just kidding. I did pretty good in school. You wouldn't think it to look at me, but
No,
I did
I'm
all right.
impressed. I definitely am impressed. But the New Jersey tall ship, the A.J. Meerwald, is still alive and well. She will be coming up to Burlington as she's in Burlington twice a year. In April for Earth Day, because we are an environmental and an educational vessel. And she also comes up in September, the second Saturday in September, which is Wood Street Fair Day. We have over 500 vendors and 10,000 people come to buy all the arts and the crafts, and a big food venue. But the Meerwald, the New Jersey tall ship, is there, and we do give free deck tours on Saturday. So you'll be able to actually walk on board an oyster schooner and see what life is like. Now, you cannot go underneath, down below, but you can hang your head down through the cook's port, and you can see. We cook on a little teeny stove for a paid crew of 7 members, and then we have 400 volunteers.
So I can go and check out the ship for free?
Absolutely free.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
That's cool.
Yes,
That's really cool.
We have a deck tours from like 10 to 12. Saturday, the second Saturday in September. It's always the same. And you can go online and look up the New Jersey tall ship and get all the information, the A.J. Meerwald, or you can call our office at 856-785-2260. New Jersey tall ship. It's on all the internet. You'll find her. And she is like walking back into history. And you will be able to go to 4 stations on board to learn how to check your water quality, as well as we actually open up an oyster so you can see the valves and the inside the oyster to show how it cleans and the water quality.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's really a good thing. If you're a teacher, call the New Jersey tall ship and get a reservation. We have DEP grants and EPA grants, as well as Subaru grants, to take your whole science and history class on board for free.
Oh, that's
Remember,
cool. Check
this
that
is
out.
science, but it's also history.
Yeah.
So it qualifies for both. So, Mark, thanks so much for walking down the oyster lane with me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. This
Very
was great.
good. And this is Carole Moore signing off. Radio Vision Network, Morning Coffee here. Carole Moore with Mark Cook. Fridays with Carole. Have a great week.